Oh, it's Jinder's Gear Reviews.
Right, welcome back to Jinder's Gear Reviews, a series of video reviews where I'll be talking about the instruments and the equipment that have that sort of seen me through over the last 23 odd years of being full time with music. Some of the stuff that gets a thumbs up, some of the stuff that gets a thumbs down, and some stuff kind of floating around in the middle. Today, I would like to talk to you about this glorious, glorious instrument. This is a 1995 Gibson Dove Dreadnought acoustic guitar. This guitar came to me a couple of years ago, 2 maybe 3 years ago, for very, very, very little money. I barely kind of paid kind of even scrap value for this guitar. Largely because it has a couple of things which put other people off. It has quite extensive lacquer damage. It's got lots of kind of cracking and crazing here and there. And it's also had the bridge changed. And whoever changed the bridge made the bridge fairly pleasantly out of something that looks like ebony, which also doesn't match the rosewood on the fretboard. It is a chunky mother of a bridge. It is a big old block. It's oversized. This is in the style of the bridge that Gibson used on Doves in the 1970s. And it's also been slightly clumsily fitted. You can see some damage to the lacquer around it, a bit of overbrushing with the stain and whatnot. Also, if you look carefully, the bottom 4 bridge pins are perfectly aligned, but the B and the E are a little bit too close together, which throws the string spacing off a little bit. Now, there's a ball end of a string rattling around in it. Do excuse my guitar housekeeping there, but for all of its quirks and its kind of like foibles, all of that stuff really appealed to me. I liked the fact that it had a 70s style bridge on a 1995 guitar. I liked the fact that the lacquer was kind of all cracked and screwed up, and you can't really make it out on camera, but it has loads of lacquer cracks all in the top, loads of crazy, no actual cracks in the wood. And this is the thing, it's a structurally sound guitar, and you know what, it sounds fantastic. It sounds like a really good Gibson Dove. I've owned a couple of Doves previously. When I had an endorsement deal with Gibson in 2008, they built a Dove to my specs for me in Bozeman, shipped it to me. I couldn't bond with it for some reason. I didn't get on with it. It wasn't the Dove for me, so that went by the by. I then bought another Dove a few years ago, which was a 2011, but had sat in a shop for a couple of years, and it had all sorts of problems with sensitivity to humidity, and ended up being sent back to the Netherlands, to Gibson Europe for repairs, because a couple of the frets fell out, and there was all sorts of like weird problems with it, so that went also by the by. But this one, it was so ridiculously cheap and so unique with the 70s style bridge on the 95 Dove and everything, and I played it and I fell in love with it straight away. It was kind of like such an oddball guitar, and it was just, I played it and it was my Dove, you know. And the thing is, I've held on to this guitar when in times of financial difficulty I had to sell a lot of my other equipment, mainly because this is a high-end guitar that isn't worth a lot of money because of all of these issues, the perceived issues that it has. But it records wonderfully and it plays wonderfully. It's a very nice approachable neck. It also has a lot of lacquer damage on the back of the neck, as you can see, where it's kind of, the lacquer's peeled off and whatnot. It's been played a lot by whoever had it before, which I think makes it all the better. It's quite a quiet guitar. It doesn't bark or ring in the same way that my J200 or the 67 J45 I've also reviewed does, but just has this warmth to it. It has this woody kind of warmth, which a friend of mine played it and said, "Oh, it sounds silvery and buttery. It sounds like buttered silver," which I thought was a wonderful analogy for the way it sounds. It has the 25.5-inch scale neck as opposed to the Hummingbird, which is the closest kind of brethren to the Dove. The Hummingbird has the shorter 24 and a bit scale neck. I can't remember the specs exactly. This one has a 1 11/16 inch nut, which is the early Bozeman standard nut width. They went to 1.725 inch a little bit later, but this has the earlier one. And it has spruce top, wonderful flamed maple back and sides, which just pop out. You can't really make out the 3D nature of the flame on the camera, but just raunchy flame. It's naughty. Sexy beast of a guitar. I have Martin 8020 bronze SP strings on this guitar. It works well with coated strings as well. I've used the Dario EXPs on it for some time. I've yet to try the New Tone Masterclass, which I've been using extensively on my other guitars for the last few months, mainly because this guitar is largely a recording guitar, so it sits in its case quite a lot and it gets brought out for recording. And so it only gets a new set of strings every few months. But yes, for me, absolutely top draw guitar, the Gibson Dove. I've always loved Doves, and I've always wanted to kind of find one that was sort of my Dove, and I was really glad to find this oddball kind of unoriginal, beaten up, change bridge guitar a couple of years ago. I could afford it at the time. It wasn't expensive at all, as I said, ridiculously cheap, and it's just it's a little bit of me, the Gibson Dove. So it gets a 10 out of 10, I think, for its general all-round usefulness and character. 1995 Gibson Dove. I'll play you out shortly, but if you would like to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, there'll be lots more gear reviews coming along. I'm trying to do something every day, talking about different bits of gear. For reference, this was all recorded through my SE Electronics Gemini 2 valve microphone, straight into a Saramonic Smart Rig UC interface and into my iPad, with no post-production whatsoever. This is entirely flat. Just for reference, the microphone has been modified slightly. It has the original stock valves taken out and replaced with some 1980s Philips military grade valves. I believe there is a 12AX7WA in the input, and there is a 5751A, I think, don't quote me on that, in the output. Now these valves have kind of opened the mic up a lot and made it a little bit more kind of airy and a little bit sort of broad spectrum, but yeah, it's all flat, and what you hear is really what you get from the Gibson Dove 1995 winner from me. And yeah, I'll play you out now.